penultimate part of the morning program, the ultimate being taking prasadam at 9 o'clock. So for the next hour we'll just be reading from the Bhagavat Purana. This is the spotless Purana, which is non-different from Krishna and has arisen in the age of Kali to bestow knowledge on the fallen situation of this age. Sanatana Goswami says that every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam pours down a flood of prema. Every syllable. When we read this book, we try to read as attentively as possible. At the moment, we've just come to a really beautiful chapter, the instructions of Lord Shiva. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat actually refers to not just Krishna, Bhagavan, but his devotees, Bhagavat. So it's filled with all these activities and instructions and prayers, not just of Krishna and his different avatars, but his intimate associates who have the most intimate perception, vision of Krishna. So we can learn so much from them. So that's what we're hearing at the moment. We're hearing from Lord Shiva, instructing the Prachetas. So this is the 4th canto and the 24th chapter. We're reading from verse 34. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Daivam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So you can follow along on the board. If you can't see the board, it's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, so 4.24.34. Veda base. We have all of our books online for free, so you can just follow on the Veda base. So please repeat after me. Nama Pankajanabhaya Bhuta Sukshmendriyatmane Vāsudevaya Shantaya Kutasthaya Swarochise Nama Pankajanabhaya Bhuta Sukshmendriyatmane Vāsudevaya Santaya Kutasthaya Swarochise. Prabhus?
Bhuta
Mataji? Nama Pankajanabhaya Bhuta Sukshmendriyatmane Vāsudevaya Shantaya Kutastaya Svarochishe Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajanabhaya Kuta Sukstendriyatmane Vāsudevaya Shantaya Kutastaya Svarochishe. Okay, we'll go through the word for word translation. Nama. All obeisances unto you. Pankajanabhaya. Unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From whose navel the lotus flower emanates. Bhuta Shukshma. The sense objects. Indriya. The senses. Atmane. The origin. Vāsudevaya. Unto Lord Vāsudeva. Shantaya. Always peaceful. Kutrasthaya. Without being changed. Svarochishe. Unto the supreme illumination. Yeah, all of these verses spoken by Lord Shiva are really poetic actually as well. Like if you just read the translations, you'd miss a lot of the like poetry that he's doing. And Prabhupada, when you go through the word for word translations, you can catch more of that. So translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation: My dear Lord, you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower which sprouts from your navel. You are the supreme controller of the senses and the sense objects. And you are also the all-pervading Vāsudeva. You are most peaceful, and because of your self-illuminated existence, you are not disturbed by the 6 kinds of transformations. Purport: The Lord as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu lies in the ocean of Garbha within this universe, and from his navel the lotus flower sprouts. Lord Brahma is generated from that lotus flower, and from Lord Brahma the creation of this material world begins. As such, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, is the origin of the material senses and sense objects. Since Lord Shiva considers himself to be one of the products of the material world, his senses are under the control of the Supreme Creator. The Supreme Lord is also known as Hrishikesh, Master of the senses, which indicates that our senses and sense objects are formed by the Supreme Lord. As such, he can control our senses and out of his mercy engage them in the service of the Master of the senses. In the conditioned state, the living entity struggles in this material world and engages his senses for material satisfaction. However, if the living entity is graced by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can engage these very senses in the service of the Lord. Lord Shiva desires not to be misled by the material senses, but to engage always in the service of the Lord without being subject to contamination by materialistic influences. By the grace and help of Lord Vāsudeva, who is all-pervading, one can engage his senses in devotional service without deviation, just as the Lord acts without deviation. The words Shantaya, Kutrasthaya, Svarochishe are very significant. Although the Lord is within this material world, he is not disturbed by the waves of material existence. However, conditioned souls are agitated by 6 kinds of transformations, namely they become agitated when they are hungry, when they are thirsty, when they are aggrieved, when they are illusioned, when they grow old, and when they are on the deathbed. Although conditioned souls become very easily illusioned by these conditions in the material world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Supersoul, Vāsudeva, is never agitated by these transformations. Therefore it is said here, Kutasthaya, that he is always peaceful and devoid of agitation because of his prowess, which is described herein as Swarochashe, indicating that he is illuminated by his own transcendental position. In other words, the individual soul, although within the illumination of the Supreme, sometimes falls down from that illumination because of his tiny position. And when he falls down, he enters into material conditioned life. The Lord, however, is not subject to such conditioning. Therefore he is described as self-illuminated. Consequently, any conditioned soul within this material universe can remain completely perfect when he is under the protection of Vāsudeva, or when he is engaged in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada ki. I'll just read the translation once more. My Lord, you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower which sprouts from your navel. You are the supreme controller of the senses and the sense objects, and you are also the all-pervading Vāsudeva. You are most peaceful, and because of your self-illuminated existence, you are not disturbed by the 6 kinds of transformation. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swabedantikam Vandeyaham Shri Guru Shri Yudha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite. We heard that sort of like the essence of the purport given by Srila Prabhupada. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. He's explained in many different purports. Prabhupada quotes this verse, and he explains that the 2 side effects of engaging our senses in the service of Krishna. So, right now, the flower which has been offered to the beautiful Supreme Lord, standing on the altar, and may have even touched his lotus feet, is now being passed around, and you can smell that flower, and your nose, your sense of smell has just been engaged in devotional service. And after this class, we'll take prasadam. You can touch with your hands, you can feel the beautiful warm prasad which has been cooked by His Grace Vanamali Prabhu. Every day, every week he wakes up, 4 a.m., the monks go into the temple room, and all the devotees come and they do their morning worship, and the chefs go into the kitchen, and serve the devotees every day, so early in the morning. And we get to taste, that nectarian prasad which has been offered to the Lord. We can engage our tongue as well in devotional service. We can listen to Krishna Katha, we can listen to the beautiful kirtan in the morning. So in so many ways we can engage so many different senses in the service of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada explains that there's 2 side effects. Just in and of itself, it's, the most ecstatic kind of activity that we can do. Engaging in devotional service is an ever-increasing ocean of bliss. Although at first it might feel a bit mechanical and clunky, and a little bit awkward, maybe even a little bit difficult at times. It's explained that like a person afflicted with jaundice, the treatment for jaundice is to take sugar candy or something sweet and to just suck on it. And that the medicine is working when the medicine itself has become sweet. Because at first it tastes bitter. Jaundice has affected your sense of taste. Everything tastes bitter. But as that sugar candy starts curing the jaundice, the sugar candy itself starts tasting sweet. So in the same way, as we engage our senses in devotional service, gradually that devotional service, we can notice that we're becoming satisfied. For the first time in our life, we're becoming actually satisfied. A deep, deep inner fulfillment which you can't get from material sense engagement. Spiritual sense engagement really nourishes the soul, because that's our original constitutional activity. Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. So, in and of itself, devotional service is so satisfying. But sarvo padi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. These 2 side effects also come. One is purified. One is freed from all designations, material designations. So Krishna tells us again and again and again in Bhagavad Gita that you are not this body, you are a spirit soul. This body, which is made of the 5 gross elements, right? And this mind, intelligence, false ego, which we're so entangled in, it comes with even more entanglement. We take birth in a particular country and we think that I'm Australian. I grew up in Sydney. I deserve to live here. I got my visa. I got my permanent residency. I'm Australian, right? Or, I'm son of Kate and Paul. I'm Edward Breslin. I've got my name, I've got my family, I've got my country, I've got my degree, I've got my car, I've got my job, I've got my social atmosphere, right? I've got my political views, all of these things. We get so entangled, and it all starts with the false ego, which takes us down into this bodily engagement. And this is very difficult situation. All of this, it just leads to more and more material sense gratification, because this false ego, where it all starts, is defined by denial of our original constitutional position. Right? So the real ego is realizing that we're servants of Krishna. The false ego is saying, I'm not a servant of Krishna. I don't want to serve Krishna. I want to serve me. I want to be the Purusha. I want to be the enjoyer. So we come here and we pursue in that way. And that comes with these 6 whips, the 6 material afflictions of the material world. In Krishna book, I think in like one of the first chapters, Prabhupada explains from one of the Upanishads, I think, there's a description of a tree. It has like 2 birds sitting in the tree. And that tree has like 3 roots, right? And maybe 6 branches. I can't really remember. It's very detailed. But it goes through the whole material situation, right? The 2 birds, the soul and the super soul. This one bird is engaged in eating 2 fruits, which is desire and aversion. Ichcha dvesha or raga dvesha. And this tree has 3 roots, right? The 3 modes of material nature. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. So all of our experience is tainted by these 3 modes of material nature. And it's explained that there are 6 whips as well. So the 6 whips are given here in the purport. What was it? Hunger, thirst, old age, lamentation, disease, and death. And delusion. I think I added one in there, sorry. But there's a lot of whips. Yeah, so like that, we fall into this situation. So how do we get out? Devotional service, right? We engage our senses in the service of the Lord. I was hearing His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj was explaining this verse as well in a way I hadn't clicked before. He says that ahaituki leads to apratihata. So ahaituki means no material motive. Devotional service which is done with no material motive leads to apratihata, uninterrupted devotional service. So we come to Krishna consciousness and we say, this is so good, I've never tasted something so blissful before, why can't I just do this all the time? And we try to just increase our service, we try to increase our sadhana, but we find no matter how hard we try, against our will, our mind, which has become this secondary person that we're now working with rather than controlled by, is constantly tricking us into, pushing away Krishna. Just let me sleep in today. I'm tired, or that devotee looked at me weird. I don't want to go into the temple today. Anything, any crazy excuse we can come up with. We're always finding ways to get out of devotional service. But the root of that interruption to our devotional service, right, the only thing that can please the soul is unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. So we've come here, we've found the cure, right, and we've got all the knowledge that we need. It's all available in the Shastras, but we just can't do it. We just can't seem to commit. My spiritual master often says, Krishna is complete. Therefore, he needs complete surrender. You can't half surrender to Krishna and get full satisfaction. When we are engaged in devotional service, we can glimpse that state, right? Sometimes we can experience that fulfillment, but the soul will never be satisfied until we are completely free of these interruptions which come from material motivations. We come to Krishna with so many ulterior motives. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this verse, I wanted to explore a little bit. This verse described Krishna as Vāsudeva, self-illuminated and all-pervasive, and it also describes him as Pankaja Nabhaya, the one who has a lotus flower emanating from the navel. One way that we can overcome this material contamination which constantly interrupts our devotional service is to get fixed in the mode of goodness. So the mode of goodness is itself a material mode of nature. It's material. But Krishna is constantly instructing Arjuna to come to this platform of goodness. Because from the platform of goodness, it's very easy. It's like a springboard. As soon as you engage in devotional service, you're projected into pure devotional service, Shuddha Sattva, right, or Vishuddha. To come to this platform of goodness, there are many processes. Devotional service itself is purifying all of these anarthas, and we become more and more sattvic by nature. Right, is the quality of a brahmana to be sattvic, and by just doing devotional service, you become a Vaishnav, which is even greater than being a brahmana. So just by doing devotional service, we approach, but there are certain chapters in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we've come through already, which give this falastuti, that this benediction. Just by reading and hearing about these topics, one becomes fixed in goodness. And they're often the ones that people skip because they're quite detailed and they're quite analytical and difficult to get your head around. Right, so in the second and third canto we hear about the creation of the cosmic manifestation, and I just read recently the falastuti for that is that one understands the constitutional position of the soul and the supersoul. If you just study and understand this process of creation, you can the result, the side effect of that is that you understand the soul and the supersoul. In the fifth canto, I was pushing to get through. It's often the canto that breaks people when you're trying to get through Srimad Bhagavatam. A lot of people get stuck on the 5th canto, apparently. It's quite difficult because it's mostly talking about the cosmology. So the structure, not just the creation of the universe, but the structure of the universe. All the different planetary systems, the shells that cover the outer layers of the golden egg, which is our universe. And it challenges your, if you've subscribed, if you've surrendered your intelligence to modern science, there are challenges there as well. There is great work done by devotees like His Grace Chaitanya Chan Prabhu, synthesizing, integrating these two views. But yeah, if you want to try and really understand it, it takes a lot of effort. That's the thing. A lot of people just skim through these verses. But one who worships Krishna by his intelligence, studies these scriptures carefully, and receives these benedictions of sattvic consciousness, which really helps our devotional service. I read in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as well, recently this one, in the purport, Prabhupada quotes the Narad Pancharatra. He says, Vishnos tutrini rupani purushakyani atho viduhu ekam tu mahatah srashtra dvitiyam tvanda sangstitam tritiyam sarvabhutastam tani gyatva vimuchyate. So this is another benediction. Listen carefully. For material creation, Lord Krishna's plenary expansion assumes 3 Vishnus. The first one, Mahavishnu, creates the total material energy known as the Mahat Tattva. The second, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, enters into all the universes to create diversities in each of them. The third, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, is diffused as the all-pervading Supersoul in all the universes and is known as Paramatma. He is present even within the atoms. Anyone who knows these 3 Vishnus can be liberated from material entanglement. Right, so we become freed from all of these material motivations which keep interrupting our devotional service. If we can just try and understand these 3 Purusha avatars, right? Karanodakashayi Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. I was on books just the other day with Ayush Prabhu with Bhakta Edward Prabhu in Newtown, and I was thinking, like everyone in Newtown, they're quite, they're like kind of, they're like up to scratch with modern spirituality. They're kind of hippies and stuff, right? I thought I could present the books as just like spiritual knowledge about meditation. So I was asking everyone, meditation, right? Have you done meditation before? And this kind of grumpy old Australian bloke was just, he turned around and looked at me, and I was like, oh God, this is not going to go well. He said, yeah, I do meditation. I was like, whoa, cool. Yeah, so he was really on board, but he was like, but I do not like religion. I don't want to hear about God. Don't talk to me about God. And I was like, but I love meditation, man. Yeah. I'm a man of science, he told me. My meditation is based on science. So that's the modern approach, right, to spirituality. It's all about kicking out God, kicking out religion, and just instead of surrendering to the Vedas, surrendering to, Prabhupada calls it the inductive process, right? We are receiving knowledge from an authority. Instead of following the inductive process, we follow the deductive process. So we use our senses, which are so faulty, the 4 defects, right? They're subject to illusion, cheating, they're limited, and we lie all the time to others and ourselves, just to believe what we want to believe. So we're going to use those senses, which are so faulty, through the deductive process to try and come to some truth. And it's explained that you might even come to Gyan, you might even come to knowledge of the self, the soul, the self, but you'll never understand Krishna, and you'll never understand bhakti, devotional service. So he was telling me he wants science, he does meditation, he's already happy, he's got his process sorted out. And then just that night I was reading, Prabhupada said, the science, what is it? Material science comprises of the 10 gross items, right? The elements and the senses. So there's the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And the 5 senses, eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and skin. They're the sense organs, but yeah, you know what I mean. But he says that the science of God analyzes the constitutional position of God and his diverse energies. So we just heard about the three Purushas, right? The constitutional position of God is it's not just like, plonk, you found God, there he is, He's everywhere. He's Ekop Yasora Chaitum Jagaranda Kotim Yat Shaktirasti Jagaranda Chaya Yadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamari Purusham Tamahambajami. He's one, Eko. Yet and from him emanate all of these universes. Yet in these millions and millions of universes he enters as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, right? But it doesn't stop there. In each of those millions of universes, there are millions and millions and trillions of atoms. And in each of those millions and trillions of atoms, in each of those millions of universes, that one same supreme God, one God, right? Not millions of gods, but one God, enters into every single atom. It's completely inconceivable. But the science of God, first we find the constitutional position of God, which is so complex in and of itself. And then we try and understand his energies. Because the impersonalists, they just try and understand Brahman, right? This is the all-pervasive aspect, the effulgence of God. And there's no Shakti for Brahman, it's just effulgence, right? It's just this one substratum. And it's very bland. But God is so relishable because he is so variegated in his beauty and in his form. And he's variegated in his relationships, which is his Shakti, right? So the three Purushas, it's explained that the material energy, Prakriti, right, this material Shakti, emanates from the Purushas. It's like the external body of God. And so when we understand the Purushas, we understand the concomitant energy, right, this Prakriti. But superior to Krishna, to the three Purushas is Krishna himself. So we've understood these three Purusha incarnations, they have these specific roles. There's some nice prayers by Prahlad Maharaj, if you're interested in looking further into it. He explains extra details about the three Purushas in his prayers to Nrsimhadev in the 7th canto. But again, from the Brahma Samhita we hear Ramadi Murtishu Kalani Amena Tishtan Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That all of these avatars and expansions and incarnations emanate from the avatari. So in the Brahma Samhita, right, this is a very authoritative scripture. Lord Brahma, the supreme authority in our universe, is saying that Krishna Swayam, Krishna is the original source of all of these incarnations, all of these expansions, all of these great, great personalities. Krishna is the original candle which lights all of the other candles. So Krishna is aloof from this material creation, Mayatatamidam Sarvam, that he permeates everything by his energies and by his expansions, but he himself is not in it. He is completely aloof. So the energies that surround Krishna are different. They're categorized as three. The energies of Vishnu Tattva are Shri, Bhu, and Lila. So Shri is Krishna's beauty and opulence. And everywhere Krishna goes, his beauty and opulence goes with him. Bhu refers to devotional service personified. Right? So we hear that Srimati Radharani is devotional service personified. No one can exceed the devotion and the bhakti of Srimati Radharani. And she's actually the reservoir of all of our bhakti. And she engages everyone in Krishna's service. So there's the Bhu Shakti, and then there's the Lila Shakti. So it's understood that Krishna is the Lila avatar. Right? So the supreme most, Vishnu Tattva, the supreme most, the avatari Krishna, is the Lila avatar. He's known for having such sweet activities, sweet pastimes, and his beauty is increased by the relationships that he has with his devotees. So there was one prayer I read from Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami as well, which helps to further understand this connection between Krishna and the Purusha avatars. In his invocation, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Sankarshana Karanatoya Shayi Garbhoda Shayi chaparobdishai shesha yasyatma chakalasa nitya nandhakya rama sharanam mamastu. I offer my heartfelt obeisances to that beautiful object of worship, Nityananda Ram, who is none other than Mahasankarshan, who from just a portion of an expansion come the three Purusha avatars. So Karano Dakashaya Vishnu, Garbho Dakashaya Vishnu, Kshiro Dakashaya Vishnu. We're almost there. We've almost got through all the heavy philosophy. There's some pastimes coming, I promise. We'll get to the Leela Shakti soon. Yeah, so Nityananda Ram, right? We have Gaura Nitai, our worshipable deities in Kali Yuga. Nitai, Nityananda, is none other than Mahasankarshan. So from Krishna, the very first expansion is Balaram Sankarshan. And he is considered the Adi Guru. He is the personification of all Vedic knowledge, all the Vedas, right? All the scriptures. He is basically instruction on how to approach Krishna personified, Sankarshan. And from him expands this quadruple expansion. You've got Vāsudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. From that Sankarshan comes a second Narayan expansion. And from that second Narayan expansion comes a second quadruple expansion. Just when you thought you were starting to get what was going on, though, it just gets more complicated. Well, the science of God is very inconceivable in that I was reading in the pastime of Vritrasur that the demigods, they offer a prayer to Lord Vishnu. So there's this one prayer that the demigods offer, saying that, because it was really nice. I read this when I was trying to understand lolium. We talk about lolium, this greed, transcendental greed. Krishna says, "Bhaktya mama vijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvataha," that one can only know these very, very lofty concepts by devotional service, right? But just by mechanical devotional service, we can't quite get there. We need to be greedy for devotion. So I was trying to understand this lolium, and I was just reading the Vritrasur pastime at the time, and the demigods said this really interesting thing, that modern theologians and philosophers and scientists, they have a polluted greed. They do have greed to understand conclusive truths about the ultimate reality. There is a desire to understand in these philosophers, scientists, and modern theologians. But that greed is polluted, and it's polluted by a rejection of the scriptures and a rejection of God, like that guy I met in Newtown. And that rejection, they're saying it comes from they're kind of like just burnt out because they've tried so many times to argue based on rational logic these inconceivable truths. And again they have these debates, and they just get fed up, right? So they start using their own rational, logical thinking with these defective senses. So Prabhupada explained in the purport to that prayer that we shouldn't be astonished to find contradictions in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of everything, including all knowledge, all truth, and all contradiction. So one should therefore not try to understand such realities simply by logical arguments. Modern theologians, scientists, philosophers, although eager to arrive at ultimate conclusions, are polluted by abandoning the scripture due to agitation from arguments lacking substantial evidence about the unlimited glories of the inconceivable transcendence. Right? So the only way that we can understand this constitutional position of God and all of his energies is, right? Parasya Shaktir Vavidhaiva Shuryate. Krishna has unlimited energies, actually. We just categorize them into certain compartments to understand them, but Krishna has unlimited energies. To understand this, one has to engage in devotional service. You can't just try and box it in with your rational mind, memorize some shlokas, it's not gonna lead to realization which changes the heart, right? The whole point of this knowledge is to worship the Lord Actually, by doing devotional service, it said the mother of bhakti has 2 children, vairagya and jnana, right? Knowledge and detachment. So, simply by engaging in devotional service, all of this becomes known to the devotee. So we were talking about sankarshan. I thought it'd be nice to hear a quick pastime about, I also mentioned Vritrasur. Just before taking birth as Vritrasur, one devotee, Chitraketu Maharaj, comes in contact with devotees, and by receiving this mantra from Narad Muni, just like the Prachetas received their mantra from Lord Shiva, and the Prachetas ultimately have darshan of Lord Vishnu, Chitraketu Maharaj, by reciting the mantra received from Narad Muni, within 7 days had darshan of Lord Sankarshan, right, the origin of the 3 Purushas that we were discussing. So, yeah, Chitraketu Maharaj is one king, and he has many wives, a very opulent palace. Materially, he's got everything. Materially, he's totally entangled, like us. But still, he's completely unsatisfied. He's actually extremely distressed, because he's got all of this, but he doesn't have a son. He doesn't have an heir to pass all of that possession onto. So he's in complete anguish, and just at that moment when he's really like despairing, Angira Muni arrives at the palace. And so Chitraketu Maharaj receives him nicely, and he begs him, please, I want to have a son, let me have a son. So Angira Muni, seeing this condition, he tries to give him knowledge, but seeing that he's totally fixed and he's not ready to receive spiritual knowledge because he's so materially entangled. He's not yet on that sattva guna platform, right? He's not ready to engage in devotional service. So Angira Muni gives him the benediction, okay, you can have a son. But the devotees, just like the Supreme Lord, they don't give benedictions that don't help the living beings come closer to Krishna. So he tells him that your son's name will be Harsha Shoka. Your son's name will be happiness and distress. Because he's going to bring you a lot of happiness and distress. This goes completely over their head. The whole palace is in a great big celebration, right? We've got a son, we've got a Prince Regent coming on the way. But soon things turn dark, right? The many wives of the king become envious of Queen Kritadyuti, who was the fortunate one to have this son. And that envy grows and grows and grows, right? When we're not on that sattvic platform, very often we struggle to relate with other devotees. One really important aspect of being tolerant, equanimous, right? Faultless, magnanimous. These are the qualities of a Vaishnava. Truthful, clean. If we don't cultivate these brahminical qualities, when we deal with other Vaishnavas, it's very easy to make offenses. Envy seeps into the heart, even during devotional service. So the wives of Chitraketu Maharaj, they become very envious of Kritadyuti, to the extent where they decide, this is it, we're being so neglected by the king, our position is so terrible, we should just kill this son. So they plot to poison him. And one day the king comes in and he finds his son is dead, and he is completely in despair, and his wife is with him. And then all of the wives, they realize, what have we done? It doesn't take too much, for the mind to make us do something that we would never think, to do, but just on a whim. If we don't have that control, if we don't have that sattva gun nature, that sattvic nature, the mind can send us into the most abominable actions, and immediately you enter into regret, guilt, this turmoil. So they're all completely lost and in despair. And then again, just at that moment, Angira Muni arrives to remind Maharaj Chitraketu of his original instructions that went over his head. And with him he brings Narad Muni. So Narad Muni and Angira Muni, these 2 great rishis, they arrive, they appear. And so they instruct him, but now Chitraketu Maharaj is still he's still holding on to his material attachment, even after losing his son. He begs, please, just let me see him one more time. So they give him that benediction, and the dead son comes back to life. Wow! And the first thing that his son tells him, I think Angira Muni or Narada Muni tells him, please speak to your father. And he tells them, he asks them, which father, which mother, This boy has now seen, the platform of the soul, and he's seen that the family, they are like straw which gathers in a river, right, and clumps together at one corner, and then as the tide increases, they just get blown and separated again into oblivion. Or another example is given that the wealth that one accumulates, is so dear to oneself. You can hold on to it with so much attachment. You've got a $50 note in your wallet. That's my new $50 note. But as soon as you pay for that item that you were attracted to, you buy that object, the $50 is gone and you completely forget about it. And now it's someone else's problem, right? They're so attached to their $50 note. What am I going to buy? What am I going to buy? Right? So this money, it's so dear to us until it's spent and it's gone and it belongs to someone else and it's so dear to them. So in the same way, our family is with us for some time. And we have so many duties to them, right? And it's good, we should be, following the prescribed duties. But at some point, that relationship is gone. It's completely temporary, actually. These family relationships are completely temporary. So this boy has realized that, and he's completely bewildered. What do you mean, my father, my mother? I've seen millions and millions of fathers and mothers. Ganesham Prabhu often tells all of us that Sri Sri Radha Gopinath are our eternal mother and father. When we go to them, we can pray to them like their own child, and ask them for any protection, help, guidance we need. Because Karano Dakashayi Vishnu, as we heard, from him emanates all of the universes. And the original source of everything is Krishna. So all of us are children of Krishna. Birth after birth after birth, he is the one who takes us to our next destination. He gives us our parents and mother and father. So like that, Chitraketu Maharaj, he's completely bewildered and he becomes very humbled and he submits himself to Angira Muni and Narada Muni, and very humbly he says, you can bestow spiritual knowledge, but I am such a fool. I am like a village animal. I am like a pig or a dog. I have no knowledge. I'm such a rascal. Please, please, please instruct me. So very humbly he comes and requests spiritual knowledge from the spiritual master. So over here, Narada Muni gives the mantra. He chants and meditates for 7 days, and he approaches Sankarshan, right, the origin of the Purusha avatars. Beautiful descriptions are given of Sankarshan. In this chapter, it's explained that he has a white complexion like the fibers of a lotus flower. Like sometimes if you look really close at a petal of a flower, there's those white fibers that make up the petal. That is the color of the, what's it called? Skin of Sankarshan. His toenails are pink, like perfectly polished jewels, and in the reflection of his toenails you can see the faces of his devotees who are worshipping him so nicely. And they're smiling with so much ecstasy. Their faces reflected in his toenails increase the beauty of his lotus feet. Like that, Sankarshan is there. And he gives Chitraketu Maharaj the benediction. Now you have come to me, your life is perfect, you have complete knowledge, you're free from all material entanglement. So just by following this process, just by approaching a spiritual master with humility and following his instructions with one-pointed attention, Chitraketu Maharaj receives the knowledge of Sankarshan, understands the constitutional position of God, the science of God, and achieves the perfection of life. So there's just one last point I wanted to try and squeeze in, because for us, it sounds very nice, very simple. You just go on practicing devotional service. But we already mentioned that practicing devotional service becomes difficult when you have material entanglement. So how am I supposed to, And on the other side of that, people tell us that we should take up difficulty for Krishna's service, right? So many times, you read Bhagavad Gita and Krishna says that one needs to develop these qualities of peacefulness, equanimity. And you look around, devotees aren't that peaceful, especially on festival days, it's chaos, And I remember when I was first coming to the temple, the first service, somehow, mercy of the Vaishnavas, Radha Vinod Prabhu engaged me in Prabhupada dressing. He trained me up to dress Srila Prabhupada, and within a couple of weeks, I was just like, I was this, new Bhakta, crammed in the, altar, trying to, tie Srila Prabhupada's dhoti properly, make the nice intricate plaits. And I could hear everyone chanting, outside, and I was like, oh man, like, what if I do something wrong, everyone's so like focused in their chanting. I was in such a panic. It was the most intense anxiety, actually, I think I've ever experienced in my life. And when I was coming to the temple, I was not expecting that. I remember coming to the temple looking for inner peace. Before I came to Krishna consciousness, I thought spirituality meant you sit down, you cut out all the nonsense, you just relax. Anything that disturbs my peace, get it out, get rid of it quickly, because spirituality means I should be peaceful. But that is so selfish, actually, and Krishna consciousness is not about my peace, it's about Krishna's peace. Right? And Mother Yashoda is the perfect example of this. I was reading I think it's the third or one of the early chapters of Krishna book, and Prabhupada said that, so it's Krishna's first birthday, right? Already a demon witch has come to kill Krishna. I think, what's the wind demon's name? The wind demon? Trinavarta comes, all of these demons coming, and Mother Yashoda, she's already just so stressed about, keeping this boy, protecting him from like fire, water, sharp objects. You've seen like kids, they're really cute for the first year or so. They just like sort of sit there and you just shake them and they just goo goo gaga. But as soon as they can walk, I remember my niece, as soon as she got, her legs working, you couldn't take her to the park because she'd just bolt, like as soon as no one's looking, she just runs in the other direction, like bye. And my sister's freaking out, like there's busy traffic right there. The same way, right? Mother Yashoda is constantly running after Krishna. We hear how cheeky he is as well, right? So, yeah, she's always, her devotion is epitomized by this, trying to keep Krishna safe. And Prabhupada writes that on Krishna's first birthday, Mother Yashoda was never peaceful, never very peaceful. They describe the whole atmosphere, right? So she takes her bath and dresses herself very nicely. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan dress themselves up very nicely for Krishna's birthday. His first birthday as well, so special. They invite, this nice band comes to play, the kirtan's going. Many brahmanas come and they're reciting Vedic mantras. And Mother Yashoda sits there with Krishna on her lap, and she's just listening to the mantras the brahmanas are offering to give auspiciousness and protect this child, the origin of all the creation. Let's protect him by worshipping the Supreme Lord. So she notices Krishna falls asleep in her lap, Mother Yashoda. So she goes and puts him gently down on his bed. I think just over his bed there's it's like a hand-drawn cart. It's loaded with, utensils and other sharp objects. But for some reason it's there. And Mother Yashoda, this is again something that happens to all of us, I think. Because we're torn, right? We have our sadhana, which is how we connect with Krishna. But we have our seva, which is how we serve Krishna. And then we have all of the Vaishnavas, which said that, worshipping and serving the Vaishnavas is the best way to please Krishna. So what do you do when, you've got your sadhana, but someone, just come to the temple for the first time, and, you've got all this seva to do today, I need to get my chanting done. We get caught in these moments sometime, right? Where you've got Krishna, his devotees, my sadhana, the deity worship I'm supposed to do every day, whatever. All these different activities, my reading, I forgot about my reading. All of these different ways that Krishna is demanding our attention, right? And if we're fortunate, our life will become so arranged that we're constantly anxious to engage in all of these different kinds of service. And Krishna is constantly crying for our attention from all of these different directions, if we're very fortunate, like Mother Yashoda. So she goes and she's welcoming all the guests and making sure that they're all taken care of. All of these very exalted devotees to be appearing in Vrindavan at the time of Krishna, right? everyone there is a very, very, very exalted devotee. So Mother Yashoda is engaging in that sadhu sangha nicely. But Krishna is over there crying in bed. He wants milk, you know. He wakes up and his legs are working now. He kicks the cart because Mother Yashoda is not coming to feed him milk. And the whole cart just completely collapses. The wheel, you know, breaks off, the stokes all fly everywhere, the brass utensils fall down and make a huge crashing sound, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan freak out. You know, what happened? They all run over. And the little boys who were supposed to be, you know, looking after Krishna, playing with him, they say, we saw Krishna kicked it and the whole thing exploded. You know, the older inhabitants of Vrindavan, I can't believe these kids, you know. How could Krishna, this tiny little, you know, 1-year-old boy, smash a whole cart with his foot? Huh? Not possible. Must have been something. They put it back together. And somehow Krishna is completely fine as well. But Mother Yashoda takes him back on her lap. And she goes and they continue the Vedic rituals. They're offering yogurt and kusha grass and ghee into the fire. You know, they're offering prayers, and Mother Yashoda starts feeding Krishna. And it's said that when a baby is, you know, sucking the breast of the mother, that they're fine. You know that they're okay. So Krishna is fine, and Mother Yashoda maybe she's finally peaceful for the first time in the day. But like that, you know, we're hearing that we're supposed to be peaceful, but devotional service is not necessarily peaceful. So it's very interesting. I think, as far as I can understand, like, we're supposed to take up these difficult services, you know, to push ourselves, you know, and to please Krishna. And the goal should be to please Krishna, not to, you know, that service is too hard. I think I'll just stay home and chant today, you know. I can just chant, right? That's devotional service. If you do that, you'll progress maybe, but it'll be very slow. And even more so, if we can take up difficulty and at the same time try and maintain, you know, that sattvic consciousness. You know, try and relate with devotees nicely and sweetly and be gentle and calm and equanimous and compassionate. Develop these qualities, and then we'll advance even faster, right? Because Vāsudeva, you know, the father of Krishna appeared first in his mind, and then was transferred from his heart to the heart of Devaki, Mata. So Vāsudeva is, right, that platform of goodness. Vāsudeva refers to that state of consciousness where one is in mode of goodness. So for Krishna to arise in our hearts, we do have to be sattvic. We have to be on that platform. And if we can, you know, we're not Mother Yashoda, we're not doing 100 different services, you know, in complete absorption in Krishna. We are Vaidhi Bhaktas, right? We're on the path of mechanical devotional service, doing it out of duty, you know, even when it's the Japamala bag feels like a 10-kilo dumbbell, you know, we have to pick it up and chant anyway. But we do that in the mode of goodness to try and get to that stage where we can be like Mother Yashoda, and we can run around in complete anxiety, you know, trying to make sure that Krishna is satisfied. Yeah, I guess we should stop there. If there's any questions or any other thoughts. Yeah, Ayush Prabhu. Mm-hmm. So Ayush Prabhu was asking, you know, we read, we hear, and we try to understand the theory, you know, that we're not the doer, we're just the instruments. How can we realize so that sense that we're the doer, that false ego doesn't keep creeping back in? Yeah, I think it's. My mentor often says, like, if you really knew it, if you really knew that you were the servant of Krishna, or if you really wanted to serve Krishna, then you would just do it. If we're still on the mental platform, then we actually haven't understood anything. If it's not manifesting in our action, then we haven't understood. But Ganesham Prabhu often says that repetition is the mother of learning. So we're talking about this complex science of God, right? The creation, the process of creation, the structure of the universe. It's given in the second canto, and it's given immediately after in the third canto, right? I think first Parikshit Maharaj inquires from Shukadeva Goswami, and then we hear from, Narad Muni inquires from Lord Brahma, and then we hear Maitreya Muni explaining it to Vidura. But it's back to back, like one second canto and then the third canto, you hear the exact same description of the creation of the universe. So Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us itself that you need to cram, Prabhupada said we need to cram his purports, and Prabhupada very conveniently often repeats and repeats and repeats the same fundamental points in his purports. So if we just keep trusting the process, many people come to Krishna actually. There's the story of the thief who was walking past and he heard about Krishna living in Vrindavan very opulently. He's loaded with all of these golden ornaments and nice jewelry and pearl earrings. And so this thief is very enticed and he goes to Vrindavan looking for Krishna. And he walks around asking everyone, where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? I'm looking for Krishna. And with such lolium, right? Such greed, he finds Krishna. And Krishna comes to him. And he starts flattering him, oh, you look so beautiful with your nice jewelry, complimenting the Supreme Lord. Gradually, after some time, he poses the question, do you mind if he's just this little boy, right, innocent little boy, you can just give me some of your jewelry? I don't have anything. And Krishna, innocently, he says, oh, I wish I could give you some jewelry. If I go home without this jewelry, my mother's going to kill me, man. So he can't give him. And the thief is just plotting, how can I? So he keeps asking him questions and associating with Krishna. So he's come with, akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi. People come with so many different desires. Whatever your desire is, do it, go for it, worship Krishna, it's fine. If you think you're the doer, if you want to, gain some fame, wealth, what is it? Nadhanam, najanam, nasundarim, whatever. If you want to, just keep reciting every morning the Shikshastakam even until it's true, even if it's not true. Because the thief, just by associating with Krishna, gradually, he spent so long that Krishna became so pleased with him, he offered him the jewelry. But at that point, he didn't want it anymore. He was completely, absorbed in love of Krishna. So amazed the beauty of this, Kishore, this beautiful, young Navayovanamcha with dark black locks and, reddish lotus-like eyes. So, yeah, I think if you just keep repetition, it's got to go in somehow. A drop of water a day wears away the stone. Yeah. Okay, maybe we should stop there. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.